So I want everybody to say hello to the gang. This is Blue, the Swiss cheese monstera. This is Rico, the money tree. And this is Meta, the pothos, and her 3 babies. And we also have our honorary member, the wildflower Lego set. I've been taking care of plants consistently for the past 4 years, but I didn't realize until recently how much they've actually been taking care of me. My name is Naya, and today I want to share a few gems my little clique has taught me over the years. In my experience with having various types of plants over the past 5 years, I realized that you won't always be great the first time around. Despite my best efforts, I just couldn't keep them alive. It was initially discouraging, but over time I slowly learned the ins and outs of plant care, understanding what each plant did and didn't like, how much water they needed, the types of sunlight they like, and so much more. This learning process unfortunately led to several plant lives being lost, but it was all part of a journey towards understanding. I've applied this same mindset to my day-to-day life, especially now as I've decided to become a full-time designer, which has almost been like a self-improvement journey on its own. When I first got Blue and Rico, I went through a period where I just could not figure them out for the life of me. Sometimes I overwatered them, sometimes I underwatered, sometimes I gave them too much sunlight and they got burned, and sometimes they just couldn't get enough. Just like my early experiences with plants, this new venture of mine provides ample room for mistakes, but also for growth. It's not perfect by any means, but I show up every single day, learn as much as I can, and give it my all. The lesson here is you won't always be great the first time around. A plant may not thrive as expected, requiring the gardener to take risks, study, and practice different care techniques. Similarly in life, we often confront obstacles that necessitate risk-taking and continual learning. We may fail at first attempts, but these experiences provide opportunities for growth and improvement. The way I interacted with my plants reflected how I treated myself. If you genuinely love and respect something, you just won't treat it any kind of way. This disregard manifested in settling for unhealthy relationships or situations, neglecting self-care, lacking routines, and maintaining harmful habits that ultimately shaped my self-image. In essence, how could I offer love, attention, and care to something else when I could barely provide it for myself? As I embarked on this journey of self-discovery, I began doing things that some may find a bit unusual. For instance, I have a habit now of speaking out loud, and I started doing this with my plants. Sometimes I'll just tell them about my day, or sometimes I'll just tell them that they're doing a really good job and they're thriving and looking all green. The same enthusiasm and love that I was beginning to give to myself, I also extended to them. This actually began with Meta. When I first got her, she was very lanky and thin, but as we grew together, I began to learn and understand what she needed and preferred. I would also regularly reassure her that she's thriving. And while I'm not exactly sure about the science behind all of this, I've definitely noticed a significant change since I first got her. Meta has consistently produced at least 2 to 3 leaves per week for over a year now. I really say all this to say that a healthy relationship with oneself involves healing, personal accountability, and self-awareness. It means intentionally pouring into your physical and mental nutrition, accepting yourself with all your perceived flaws and traumas, and letting them go to create a new narrative. Now, because of the abundant growth that Meta has been producing, I recently started propagating her, which is a process that involves cutting the plant at various nodes and placing them in water. This ultimately leads to new root growth and consequently a new plant. And for the past 3 months, these roots have been growing slowly but steadily. One thing that I've come to learn in this process too is that when propagating, there is the risk that your plants may not root at all. And so what that has taught me is that you can have a certain plan for how things will work out, but sometimes God just has another plan for you that you can't quite see at the moment. All the effort and time that you're putting in now is ultimately so that you can occupy bigger spaces. This is exactly what I'm doing for the little ones. Yeah, they're in water now and they'll be in these little cups for a while, but ultimately I plan to put them back into the big pot. That way they can all grow together. The process of propagating alone has taught me the valuable lesson that growth often happens in its own time and season. It requires patience and understanding that pace can vary. Sometimes it can pick up and sometimes it can slow down, but that doesn't mean it was all for nothing. It's the act of planting small seeds and just letting them grow and develop with time, experience, and education. In conclusion, nurturing plants has exposed me to a journey filled with all sorts of lessons that I didn't even realize could be applied to the many different ins and outs of my life. It's taught me that it's okay to not have everything figured out immediately, as learning and growth takes time. It reminds me of the importance of self-care and how our treatment of ourselves often reflects how we treat others. And finally, it instills patience, teaching me that growth occurs in its own time, not on my time, and it requires continuous effort despite the ebbs and flows. The act of planting small seeds today prepares for bigger opportunities tomorrow. My little leafy companions always remind me to be patient, consistent, and compassionate towards myself as I navigate through this crazy thing we call life. Thank you for watching as always, and I hope this inspires you to get your own plants and discover the lessons that they can teach you. I'll see you in the next one.